Circus greetings for sci-fi and Robert Eggers fans. Drew here with our first episode of the new year. I know it was going to be Jeff Nichols' Midnight Run or whatever that movie is because Eric wanted to review it. But we got a special guest. From the Friday the 13th Part 4 review, Mr. Ben Ellis is in town.
How's
And
it going, everybody?
how's it going? And we're going to talk about some Nosferatu.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, Nosferatu, the titty sucking vampire.
I want to suck your boobs.
Yeah, Teddy does that in that movie.
Yeah,
But
it was an interesting film. It was very interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But we're gonna take maybe like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, maybe an hour tops, and we're gonna talk about Nosferatu.
Okay.
And so before we get into the actual movie, what's your overall thoughts about Robert Eggers?
Robert Eggers. Okay. So he had me sold at The Northman. The
Mm,
Northman was absolutely a complete A+ sell. I have not been able to deny any of his work since then. But that was the point where I really bought in to Eggers.
oh, absolutely, yeah. I love Robert Eggers. I think I mean I remember hearing about The Witch and everybody going crazy over
I love
that, and
The
then
Witch.
Lighthouse came out. The first one I actually sat down and watched from beginning to end was The Northman, based solely on the fact that Anya Taylor-Joy was in the movie, and I love her to death.
You got it
And
there.
she is not even beginning of what that how awesome that movie is, because everything else in that
Yeah.
movie is amazing. And then recently for Nosferatu, I went back and we watched The Witch and The Lighthouse. Because I tried to watch this movie before and I kept falling asleep.
No,
Yeah.
no. So
But yeah.
before I ever watched The Witch, I worked with one of the drivers for that movie,
Oh, nice.
and he was telling me how convoluted and strange the story was.
Hmm.
And then he went and watched it, and he told me that it was the most straightforward story he had ever seen. And I couldn't help but agree with him with Black Bart and
Yeah.
all
Being
those
Black
points.
Phillip.
Yeah, Black Phillip,
Yeah.
sorry. But all that stuff, it was one of those, it took him 8, 9 months to film that movie.
Oh, wow.
And what he told me about it was so confusing.
Hmm.
But at the same time, at the end, when he explained it all came together in this really fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is a good point to talk about why Robert Eggers is so unique in the horror space right now, is because he does period horror, like
He
horror
does.
that takes place in a different time period.
Yeah.
And he really makes you feel like you're in that time period. And I heard him
Yes.
say in an interview for this movie, um, that if he wasn't some sort of storyteller, he would be a archaeologist because he loves history. And it really shows in every single one of his movies. When you
It
watch The
does.
Wiz, you feel like you're in Puritan times in New England. When you watch Northman, you feel like you're in this lighthouse in like the late 1800s with these guys.
Well, it's
And when you watch The Northman, you feel like you're in Viking like Europe
yeah,
in that time.
exactly. And it's one of those things that's very apparent in Nosferatu. He goes into the regional dialects,
Oh
and
yeah.
he really focuses on that. And he really goes into like the customs
Mhm.
and those regional and customary things that really make you think about, the
Oh
differences.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think between him, Ari Aster, Jordan Peele, and Mike Flanagan, I think those are like the big guys in
Yeah,
horror right
yeah.
now. Like
The
how in
big
the
three.
yeah, well, like how in the 80s had like Wes Craven, John Carpenter, Tom Holland, and then the guy that did
Wait, Tom Holland. That's
no
Spider-Man. That's Spider-Man.
Child's Play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, but like these are like the new guys in horror right
You're
now.
right. You're right.
But yeah, let's get to it, man. What are your before we get into like more of the deep dive, what is your overall thoughts about the Nosferatu?
Oh, overall, I was I went into it assuming it was going to be a shot for shot remake
Mm,
of the original. And so they incorporated Bram Stoker's Dracula
right.
as long, as well as Nosferatu.
Mm,
And they brought it all together into an amalgam that I was not ready for. And when I saw it, I was surprised at every turn, every turn of the scene. And I can't say that I will look at this project as anything other than a B plus, maybe an A minus.
yeah, it's an indie project.
It's so good.
It's like Peter Jackson's King Kong. It's a movie
It's
that he watched
yeah.
when he was a child, and he always wanted to remake. He tried to make. Yeah, actually, Robert
I mean,
Eggers. He actually did this as a play in high school. He did.
really.
Yeah, yeah. He did Nosferatu as a play. So
Well, I know he started to try to do it in 2015
right.
and then got pushed off until like
Yeah.
2021. But I can't imagine trying to do this before all the CGI, all
Mm,
the graphics, all the, like all of that, the prosthetics
mm,
couldn't be equivalent.
right.
So it's hard to think about it like that.
Yeah. As far as my overall thoughts before we get into more of the details, I love this movie.
I
Yeah,
love it
yeah,
too.
yeah. It was everything that I love about the original Murnau film. The shadow, the atmosphere, the surrealism. It had the grittiness of the Werner Herzog
Yes.
movie and all the rats, of course.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of rats.
The rats were
Yes.
definitely there.
And then it had Robert Eggers attention to detail for the
It
historical
did.
time
Yeah,
period.
it definitely did.
Yeah, so yeah, it had it. I like that, and it really doesn't do anything new with the story except for, and we'll get to this later a little bit, except for the fact that Ellen, Lily Rose Depp's character, has always had a connection with Count Orlok. That's like the only
Yeah,
thing that was
yeah.
a major difference.
And that was a major difference that I was not ready for.
Oh yeah, it was kind of like
Because
Phantom of the Opera a little bit.
it was. It
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
you got this mild mannered, meek, um, woman character who encounters this monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thinks is some sort of like an guardian angel, but it,
Yeah.
it is really sinister.
Well, that was the thing is I think the difference between, Phantom of the Opera
Mm,
and Nosferatu was that she had no genuine connection with the creature
mm,
other than her prayers,
right.
other than just reaching out, wanting
Yeah,
to wanting to make a
yeah,
contact with
because the
somebody.
Phantoms, he had it with her, like the connection with her dad, because her father was that famous musician who said, when I die, I will send forth the angel of music.
That's a good
And
point.
and
That's a
she
good point.
thinks the Phantom is the angel of music. But I think it's interesting because this is technically a Dracula movie, like a story.
Really? Okay.
That
Yeah,
you're
I
a horror
know. I
movie that
understand. I understand.
yeah, but it's kind of cool to see like all these different actors play them, from Matt Schrank to Lugosi to Christopher Lee. You even had the guy from The Northman, the bad guy, the uncle, play him in the
Oh
BBC
yeah, you're
version.
right.
Yeah,
You're
Klaus
right.
Bang or
Yeah,
Bong.
you've got that right
Yeah, and
on the
he was
money.
awesome. So it's just cool to see. It's kind of like Batman or James Bond or Ebenezer Scrooge, where you have all these famous actors that played them, but they give a different flavor to it. So it was always kind
Yeah,
of fun. Yeah, it's fun.
yeah, it was really fun.
Now, how did you feel about the cast of this movie,
So the
and
cast,
who are the standouts to you?
uh, obviously, uh, it was going to be Skarsgård
Yes,
because at the very end of the movie, I had no clue who played the vampire.
at all,
And what?
at all. So you didn't know. You didn't know going in.
Yeah, no. So I have a thing where I will not watch the trailers. I will not watch any of the cast, and I want to go see a movie based on what I think it is. And I went to go see this movie based on what it was. And at the end of it, when they told me Bill Skarsgård was Count Orloff,
Hmm.
yeah, Orloff,
Yeah, Orlok.
I Orlok.
Yeah, you said
Sorry.
Olaf. That's
Yeah, no,
Lemony
you're right.
Snicket's.
You're right. But when I found out he was the vampire, I was kind of taken aback. I
Hmm.
had a moment where I really thought back and I thought about how could that have happened?
Right.
How could I have been fooled? And having worked in the industry,
Mm.
it's hard to admit that you've been fooled.
Right.
And so
Well, that's kind of the point of acting is, like when you get in that when an actor gets so much into a character, you don't think about anything else you've seen him in. You just see that character. So, like for instance, example, Penguin, Colin Farrell. That did not look like Colin Farrell at all.
no, it's a good
That,
call.
yeah, not
That's a
one.
good call.
Yeah, not one bit. He is Oz Cobb.
But yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And but I knew it was Bill Skarsgård going in, and I was the same way. I did not. I couldn't tell you. If I didn't know who it was, I would be like, oh, Johnny Depp, maybe.
yeah. Who the hell is this guy?
Yeah. Or somebody like Johnny Depp.
Yeah,
But
somebody
I
that
thought he was
can.
great. I
No,
thought he
he
was,
was fantastic.
yeah, just the way, and I liked how Eggers doesn't really sell him at
He
all.
doesn't. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
like
never
ever, like
pushed
there's,
it. He
yeah,
never like put that out in front. He was never trying to use that as a selling point.
yeah, it's like Joker from Dark Knight. It's people talking about him. It's his presence. It's the way
Yeah,
he carries his voice and himself.
you don't. Yeah, you don't need to sell the actor. You
Mm,
sell the character.
yeah. Now let's
And
talk about the main star of the movie, Lily Rose Depp. What do you think about her?
I was actually really, really impressed by her.
Yes.
Her entire performance was so visceral. It was so primal. It
Mm,
was hard to go against. There was no point where I was like, I can't believe that.
right.
Because she just laid it all out,
Mm.
just laid it all out as it was.
Yeah, but stuff that he's asked to do in this movie, like freak out and like freak, like stuff like
Yeah.
sick violently,
Well,
and and doing the whole tongue thing, and then
I think that was more Nicholas Holt's character,
yeah.
was where she did all that, and he was like, you know what? That's kind of sexy. And
Oh
he
yeah, we'll talk about that stuff
yeah,
later in
yeah.
this review.
That was the point where I was like, what the
Yeah, and I
hell?
actually saw this movie with my mom, and some of that stuff got real awkward.
Can only imagine.
Yeah. And then the next person we could talk about, speaking of Nicholas Hoult, let's talk about him. What do you think about him as Thomas Hutter or the Jonathan Harker?
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
He comes out as the most innocent of all characters.
Yeah,
And
he was great.
he was fantastic. And he came
Honestly,
out
he's my favorite Jonathan Harker, honestly.
really
Yeah.
even after Keanu Reeves.
Oh my God, he was terrible.
No, no.
Oh my, you can't. You can't
Keanu's the stuff.
Nah, he's terrible.
Yeah, all right.
They should have got Johnny Depp.
We're gonna
Like they
agree
originally
to
wanted.
disagree. But but Nicholas Hoult did a second place job.
Yeah. He did a
And
great job.
he came in and he did
He
the role.
served a hell of a lot better than David Manners from the Lugosi film.
You are not wrong.
That's the thing about
You
those.
are not wrong.
That's the thing about those classic Universal monster movies. I love them to death. The best acting is from the main monster, and then maybe like one of the side characters,
No, it's
and then
gotta
everybody
be,
else sucks.
it has to be a supporting actor
Yeah,
because the main actor besides the monster is going to be they're depending on the monster.
yeah,
They're looking at the
yeah. Because
monster,
Lugosi,
assuming that they're going
yeah,
to
because
carry the
Lugosi's
whole thing.
amazing, and
Yeah.
then Bright Five's amazing at Renfield.
Yeah. And you've got a main character looking at a main monster,
Mhm.
and they are hoping they're going to carry their performance.
Right, and then everybody else sucks. Like Damon Manners sucks
Yeah.
in that movie. Like Ender Van Sloan sucks as Van Helsing. With speaking of Van Helsing,
Mm.
let's talk about the boy, my guy, one of my favorite actors. Oh, well, yeah. No,
So,
well, yeah, he was Van Helsing in that movie. But let's talk about William Dafoe
Willem
as
Dafoe.
as
Okay.
Van Helsing, or this movie.
He was not Van Helsing,
But he was like, yeah, but
he was the quote unquote Van Helsing character.
yeah, I don't remember his name in the movie.
You know what?
I didn't call him Van Helsing.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
But he was good. He was really good.
He was extremely good. But he and the Renfield character were kind of on the weird same level.
Really?
Where they were both in the asylum, both, like closed off. They were both locked up,
Mm,
and all of a sudden, the Van Helsing character
mm,
got let got let loose,
right.
and it was fine. It was totally fine in terms of literary like devices,
Mm,
but it just felt weak,
right.
And I love Willem Dafoe,
Yeah.
but it just felt weak for him.
Really. I really liked him in this movie. My favorite Van Helsing is Anthony Hawkins.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
definitely
I liked how he
that,
played it
you
kind of
got me there.
crazy. Yeah, something we do agree about with the Coppola version of Dracula. But I like this Van Helsing because he's a little bit more rugged. Because you look, they go into to his little office area or his little
His
house.
cell,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and it's very closed in. Like there's stuff everywhere.
yeah,
Like he's
yeah.
kind of like a crazy version of Indiana Jones in a way.
Yeah, he's basically Indiana Jones if they didn't give him a professorship.
Yeah.
If
Well,
they
what I was
had
thinking
not
about this movie,
allowed him to be a
yeah,
teacher.
I think they said in this movie that he was a professor and he got kicked out for controversial
Yeah, yeah,
ideas.
yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. Like this guy that has been around and he just collects stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. And then running out the cast, of course, we got Aaron Taylor Johnson as I don't remember that character's name, but their friend.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Ellen and Thomas's friend. I thought he was really good to hamming it up.
No, he really killed it
Yeah.
until he kind of threw the entire story into a spiral.
Yeah, well, he had an interesting arc where like his wife dies. He gets killed. His wife and kids die.
Yeah,
They get
yeah.
killed by Count Orlok, and
It just
he
went
goes to the
into a
grave and starts crying.
yeah, it just went into a cosmic spiral. It
Right.
just all came down.
Yeah, I thought that was real
And
interesting.
yeah, that was definitely interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was centric to the plot.
Mhm.
I don't know if that was
I'll tell you
necessary.
why. Because
Okay, tell
this
me why.
morning I was listening to a podcast about this movie, and they were saying that when the original came out, that was coming off of World War I,
Oh
where that
God.
was you have all like these people, these soldiers coming back with like deformities
Yeah.
because the advancement of medicine,
Hmm.
healed them, but they looked all jacked up.
Yeah.
And you had like this war that took over a lot of cities and destroyed
Hmm.
a lot of cities, almost like how Orlok did. This version of
That's
it,
fair.
yeah,
That's
this
fair.
movie is coming off of COVID, where people are constantly dying. We're just hearing about this plague
Yeah.
essentially taking over people. And maybe it just wasn't intentional from Eggers because he been working on this movie for a while. Where that could have been a parallel to that.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah,
He
and that,
started in what 2005,
yeah,
and then kept going until 2014 or 2024.
yeah.
And so I can only imagine trying to deal with the development of having a healthy society,
Mm,
going to a non-healthy society, back to a semi-healthy society. I can't imagine that kind of back and forth.
right.
And I can only imagine the
Because we never dealt
change.
with like, I mean, there's been diseases out there, like
Yeah,
the epinephrine like
nothing
worldwide.
like that. And well, they talk about the plague
Mm,
in the movie.
right.
And so that may have been the spawn of
Mm,
why they were talking about what they were talking about.
right. Well, the
COVID.
Spanish
Sorry,
flu was
COVID talking about
yeah,
the
and the
plague.
Spanish flu was kind of close by,
Yeah,
like the
exactly.
original too.
Exactly.
Right. And that was like
So they were,
that was like really the last one where it was like a worldwide
yeah.
pandemic.
Well, that's the thing is they were dealing with a worldwide pandemic that was also a kind of a mystery,
Mm,
and they're dealing with having someone that may carry the mystery or
right.
may be part of the plague.
Mm,
So it's hard to say.
yeah, for sure. What was your thoughts on the production design and the cinematography for this film?
Oh, the cinematography. Oh my God. Every frame was a
Oh,
painting.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I would hang.
Every
There's
frame was
several
a
shots in
painting.
this movie I would hang up on my wall.
Oh my God.
What are some shots that stick out to you from
Some
this?
some shots.
Yeah.
So when the wagon initially comes over the hill
Mm,
and sees the castle they're talking about, that's fantastic.
yeah.
And then just because I'm the guy I am. When he is standing up in the coffin and you see the wiener, but you
His
see
little Count Orlok.
you see his little Count Warlock, and you don't know what to do. You don't know what it's about, but it comes to play later in the story.
Right.
But you at the moment you're like, what the fuck is that about? Why is that there?
Right.
Yeah, and so those couple shots have really captured my mind
Yeah.
and really brought me back to the like the original,
Mm,
trying to understand where they came from.
right. I would say my favorite thought was whenever Lily Rose Depp was topless.
I mean, that's a good shot too.
No, no,
I'm not
I'm
gonna
kidding.
argue.
I think two of my favorite thoughts in the whole movie is at the beginning. And I didn't realize that this was a oneer until I saw a thing about Robert De Niro talking about his favorite thoughts in one of his movies on
Mhm.
IGN or
Yeah,
Cinefix. And he talked about that whole shot which he's praying. Like that's a wonder
that's
shot.
a good shot.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
coming out of the
I
darkness,
never thought about that as
and then
being
it
a
kind of
winner.
turns over. She looks at her curtains, and then you see the silhouette of Count Orc. Like I love that shot. I want that as a
I did
poster.
not think about that. I did not think
Yeah,
that was the count. That was the silhouette of Count Orlok.
yeah,
I thought it was the silhouette of somebody else, but when you
yeah,
really say that, it's you've got a point. Oh my God.
yeah. That, and then when his shadowy hand goes over
The
Germany.
shadowy hand over the
Yeah,
town is fantastic.
yeah,
That's oh my God, that's so metaphoric. It's so good.
yeah. And
But it's also, does it feel too artistic?
now, 'cause it's going back to what I was saying, where it kind of takes that kind of German expressionistic kind of thing that Murnau does.
All right.
Yeah, and it's going back to the whole plague thing. Like he's spreading
That's a
his
good point.
power.
That's a good point. Okay.
Right, for
I've
sure.
not thought about that.
Another scene, another set that really like sticks out in my mind, and another scene that sticks out in my mind is when Thomas Hutter goes into the Gypsy Villas.
Yeah.
And I see all these gypsies like playing guitar and like doing that weird like dance
That's
thing.
what that's what weirdly adverse against gypsies.
Yeah, but
You know?
but it felt real. Like it felt like, and actually that
It did feel real,
well,
but
this is actually a focus movie, a focus pictures.
no, of course.
Yeah, and so it's under Universal, so it felt like I was in it felt like I wanted it as like a house, a Halloween Horror Nights.
Okay.
Like that was like the part where like I want to walk through this. Like I want,
Okay.
yeah, I want to
I
walk through
want
this.
more. I want more of this.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really, and I told my mom like if they ever do this for ACSN next year, like I want it. We're going. Like I want to go. I want to go. I want to go to this. Like that would be awesome.
I need to know more.
Right. And well, a lot of these stories, like Dracula and the Wolfman, they come from a European like
They do.
sensibility. Like they're very
These are
European.
all child stories.
Right. Yeah. It's very like well, and I was even talking about this with my mom the other day, where that's the thing I like about Europe is like it's mixed between like old school and new school.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, like, and I think,
like 75%
yeah, what I think,
new
like,
school
yeah,
or old school.
yeah, and that's what I like about, the Universal Monster movies is because, you had these people driving cars and, they're dressed kind of modern, but they're interacting with like this centuries old, like Transylvania account.
Yeah.
Play like Bela Lugosi, and Bela Lugosi, I mean, he was probably born around the same time as the other actors in those
Well,
movies,
that's a
but
universal thing. Is like
yeah, but he felt like he was from a bygone era. Him and Boris Karloff.
no,
Because of the accent.
absolutely. But you're dealing with the story structure of old school
Mm.
versus new school,
Oh yeah, and I
and
like that. And yeah, and
I
it
do
works.
too.
Yeah, yeah,
I
it
do
works for
too.
that for those kind of stories.
I love those kind of stories.
Yeah,
It definitely motivates me to actually work for the story.
right. And yeah, and then when you're in Orlok's castle, you feel like you're in that castle when you're in the German
Yeah,
villas.
definitely.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of bugged me about this movie, and I didn't think about this till later, where Skarsgård commits to an accent. Nobody
The
else can miss.
Russian accent?
Yeah, well, nobody. He sounded like Davy Jones from Pirates, didn't he?
He kind of did.
Yeah, the Bill Nighy
He kind of
character.
did.
Do
But he
you
was,
feel
yeah.
Josh
But
Thomas?
I can give credit to Eggers
Mm,
for trying to imitate, or like tried to look at the
mm.
dialect of the Transylvanians, of the people
Yeah,
that were in that region, and then
but
he tried to pay homage
yes, and I
to them.
wish like all the other actors, like Lily Rose and um, shoot, what's his name, Nicholas Hoult, like all of them. I wish they would have done a German accent.
They would have. You're not wrong.
Yeah, because
You're
here's the
not.
thing. I get okay, a movie like Boy in the Striped Pajamas. That's another movie that takes place in Germany. Okay, you don't want to do a German accent, but Robert Eggers is so keen on authenticity. You would like I mean, he let Willem Dafoe do an accent. He let everybody in Northman talk like Viking or how they would talk. Like
Well, that was
I wish
the
he would have told his
Northman
act.
was fantastic. Let's
Yeah, I
put
wish
it
he
out
would have
there.
told his actors to commit to the German accent.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
I think he told the right people to abide by the German
Mm.
accent, and I think they held to it, and it became a problem.
Right. And really, like that's the thing about this movie where like it literally probably could have took any put could have like I mean of course it has to be Transylvania, like Dracula has
Yeah,
or like has to be, but it could have been any other like European city
of
that he
course.
wanted to take over. It just so happened that the original Nosferatu it was made by German
Yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was a German film production. So it just so happened. So yeah, he was just honoring that.
Hmm.
Where normally Dracula takes place in London.
Yeah.
Um, did you like that Robert Eggers went back to like old school European vampire myth, not like what we've seen in movies?
I can't say that I did. I I wanted more of him. I wanted more interpretation. It's hard to see someone with such artistic ability to look at something and not interpret it in their own way. So seeing them not change anything other than versus biting the neck
Mm.
and biting the breast, it's not a big difference. It's just not.
Really? Because
It's
well, did you notice that in the beginning when he's in the Chippy village, they take that female vampire. It's not like a wooden stake, it's a metal stake.
okay.
Because I didn't notice this until I heard him say something about it for Eggers. And he said that they did that because they didn't want the person to get up. They wanted them to stay there till sunrise.
God.
Yeah, because they can
Okay.
break it, because they can break wood.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's a fair point.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I like
That's
the
actually, I've never thought about that.
yeah.
That's a hardcore point, and
Yeah.
you may have a point there.
Yeah, and I like the whole like satanic stuff. They went back to like the classic European religious art where you always have like pictures of like demons like seducing women
Mhm.
or having sex with women,
Yeah.
kind of selling their soul to the devil kind of thing. And they kind of do that with like Count Orlok towards the end of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um and speaking of that, I really kind of like how they and this is probably why I may like this movie more than the original because of the characters.
No, the
Because yeah,
characters absolutely drive the entire
yeah,
story.
because like you have this guy who's in real estate and he's kind of wide-eyed, very innocent,
Yes, he's
doesn't
extremely
know
innocent.
his whole history with his wife
Yeah.
and her relationship with this client that he's about to interact
Yeah.
with.
Quote
And he
unquote client.
yeah, and he's about to and he didn't realize he's got to sell his soul to the devil basically.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, like him making this deal with his boss is a part of is gonna really mess things up.
Yeah.
And potentially and he didn't know that his wife is gonna die, basically, sacrificing herself.
Not a spoiler alert.
Well, this is all spoilers.
Yeah. No, he's yeah, he's kind of right.
Yeah, but I mean, I like that. And then like how, almost Willem Dafoe doesn't really know what's going on, too.
No, Willem Dafoe is just feeling it out the
Yeah,
entire time.
my favorite line in the whole movie from Dafoe is when he's trying to explain what's going on. He says, this guy is so scary that he'll make Sir Isaac Newton go back into his mother's womb.
Yes.
That was awesome.
I love the fact, I really do love the fact that Willem Dafoe plays the Van Helsing character and understands that he has no clue what is going on.
Right.
He
Well,
has a
oh yeah.
vague understanding of what's going on.
Right.
And he still,
We never encountered it before.
yeah, exactly. But in the original book, he goes after everything as if he's understood this for years. And so when he finally is like, I don't fucking know.
Right.
Like, let's try it. And that was the most realistic Van Helsing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and Van Helsing's my favorite literary character of all time.
Such a good character.
Yeah, and I like how he like kind of sees the Venn diagram of like the scientific and the supernatural, like kind of like I do.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I'm very much like that. I kind of play in both worlds a little bit.
Yeah, there's always a middle area.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I don't know, I just like the whole like and of course we only seen this movie one time, but I'm really interested to like buy the Blu-ray and listen to Ager's commentary. And it kind of
yeah,
hear him like
I
in
would
more detail.
absolutely buy this DVD.
I'll buy it on fucking 4K.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's almost. I love this movie.
Let's be honest. I would rent this on 4K.
Did you like the look of Count Orlok? Because this is very different than what we see in Dracula.
I loved the look of Count Orlok.
Mm.
It was all perfect until we saw the little grub worm of the weird little prosthetic penis. And that was even understandable. But up until that point, I even after that point, I really loved that character's look because again, I never look at the trailers. I never look at anything.
Well, they didn't show him at all, ever, like in the trailer.
Well, yeah,
barely.
They never showed what he was going to look like, and I saw it for the first time while I was in theaters, and I was shocked, which is the best thing you can be as a theater recipient, as you can be as a theater goer.
Yeah, and I don't
be shocked.
And I don't think we get that too much nowadays, because everybody, either the studios will spoil stuff in the trailer or some asshole online will spoil stuff. And there's not a lot of genuine surprises in movies.
No, you're
anymore.
Absolutely right.
And the fact that like Eggers really understood that, why Jaws was such a success, or movies like that where like they don't really see the monster a whole lot in the trailer. They wait for you to go see the movie.
You have to see the monster. You have to understand the monster.
Right. Or Alien was another one.
Again, you're right. You're right. But you see these monsters and you finally understand them. And you finally, period, understand their mission. You understand their wants and needs. And this was one of those movies. If you really sat and thought about it, you really got to see this monster's needs and wants.
Right.
And it made it personal. It really did.
Yeah. Real quick, who's your favorite Dracula, including Nosferatu?
Wait, hold on.
Like, who's your favorite Dracula, including Count Orlok?
Oh, Keanu Reeves.
No, like the actor that played Dracula, not the movie.
Wait, the guy that played Dracula?
Yeah.
Oh, Gary Oldman.
I'm gonna go Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee?
Yeah, because he was the right balance of menace and
fantastic.
charming.
I'm not gonna lie to you. The man was the basis for James Bond. But Gary Oldman just fucking crushed.
Yeah, Gary Oldman's amazing because like he wears different skins throughout that movie.
Yeah. And I think that was the thing, is like I watched Keanu Reeves and Gary Oldman growing up and seeing Gary Oldman go through like 3 to 4 different changes.
Right.
I could not understand how a person would do that.
Yeah, I like how he's like the only, unlike Christopher Lee, who is also British.
No, yeah,
Like he actually commits to the Transylvanian
he
accent.
does. He
Yeah,
does.
he sounds like Bela Lugosi.
He does. He
Now,
sounds like Bela
now one thing I
Lugosi.
do want to say about this new Count Orlok, that I forgot to mention, he heavy breathes a lot because he's basically a
He
corpse.
does. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that was really interesting. And
He's
that
barely hanging on to life.
right, and that was very Klaus Kinski. Because then, can you read in the
Okay.
yeah, remember at the end of the Warner Harshawk version,
Yeah.
like when he's about to drain the life out of Ellen or meet they actually call them their actual
He's
characters in
still.
that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. I thought that was really cool that they did that.
Yeah.
And they incorporated it in this one. Now let's get into the look. I kind of like. Did you
Oh,
like
the
it?
look. Okay. The look was it was special.
Yeah,
It was
it was
it
the
was a new thing.
yeah, it was actually the most
The handlebar
accurate.
mustache.
Yeah, it was actually the most accurate version.
Yeah, he looked genuinely looked like a corpse.
Yeah, well, he looked like Stoker's description in the
He
book.
does. Yeah, you're exactly
Yeah,
right. He looks like Stoker's Dracula, true
mm,
Dracula. He looks like
right,
a corpse that has been reanimated and just a little bit refueled.
right.
He's had just a little bit of juice where he's coming
Yeah, I
back.
was wondering if they were gonna do that Gary Oldman thing where he's kind of like old and shriveled up, and as he like sucks people off, he gets more sexier
I
and
like the
more.
fact that they left him as a corpse
Yeah, I
or
like that too.
as an
Well,
almost
it
corpse.
distinguishes it from the Gary Oldman version.
No, yeah.
Because if you did that, it's like, oh yeah, it's Gary Oldman version
No,
again.
but I like the fact that they left this man or this
Mm,
creature as a corpse and he was just trying to maintain life.
right.
He was not trying to gain extra life. He
Mm,
was trying to just maintain.
right.
And that, in fact, made him a more scary character.
Mm,
It made him a much more scary creature.
right.
So I really enjoyed that.
Mm. Now let's talk about the biggest change from this version, which is that Ellen had a little bit of a connection with
Not just a
Count
little
Orlok.
bit.
A big
Yeah,
connection.
it was a big connection.
Yeah, like how
She
do you
was
feel about that?
really into that.
How do you feel about that change in this
That
movie?
got weirdly, it almost took me out of the story.
Mm,
And I understand in the original story,
yeah.
there was a character that had a point where
Mm,
she was physically or not physically, but mentally attached
mm,
to a guy. And this one, it started out way younger.
mm,
She was very young, and she prayed to have somebody be her physical
mm.
partner, be somebody that she could connect with.
Right. And
And
well, that was yeah, that's interesting because like we talked about, I know you were in this review, but like we talked about in like the interview with the vampire review that we did in October, where my guest was saying that that the whole act of sucking somebody's blood as a vampire is very intimate. It's inherently very sexual.
extremely in.
Yeah, because it's about all about the seduction and the fact that like see that this young girl essentially like that's kind of like your first sexual awakening in a way.
Well, who would let you suck their blood?
Yeah, it's almost like you're going back to the whole Phantom of the Opera thing. Like the Phantom of the Opera opens up Christine
Yeah.
to this whole new world.
Yeah.
Um,
A whole new world.
um, now diving into that topic, did you feel like the sex and nudity in this version? Do you think it elevated the story, or do you think it was gratuitous, or do you think it was like the right balance, or do you feel like it fit the narrative of the film?
So when they showed Count Orloff, or
Oh my God, you're stuck on this
yeah,
penis.
but when he was out of the coffin, and they just showed the weird little dried shrimp of of a penis, it didn't make sense. But later on, it came to make sense, and but I can I can admit as an audience member, as a layman, that seeing that took me out of the story, and later on it brought me back in.
Mm,
But at the same time, I was totally taken aback.
Mm,
It made no sense in the moment.
right.
And so all of that could have been brought together very easily
Right.
with a lack of that.
Mm,
Yeah,
right.
with a lack of that moment. And there were moments where Depp and other people had moments of semi-nudity
Mm,
and semi, sexuality
mm,
that brought me into the moment, but that one was so abrasive
mm,
that it took me out of the
right.
story. It
Yeah.
totally took me out of the story, and I was like, what's
Right.
happening?
I thought a lot of it was really good.
No,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
most of
it
it was
helped the story.
fantastic.
The one part I really liked, one of the changes, because usually in like the Dracula movie, John Harker is always seduced by Dracula's bride, and that's straight out of the book.
Yeah.
And I'm reading this book, and I'm like, they're alluding to like oral sex, and I'm
Yeah.
like, this is some steamy stuff for like the
That's so
1880s.
spicy.
Um, but I liked how they changed it up to where like when Orlok is trying to like seduce them, there's a quick flash of Ellen nude, like
Yeah.
full frontal nude.
Yeah.
And so like it made it personal for
It
him. It's
did.
not
It
like
did.
one of these sexy vampire ladies.
But what about when she was getting seduced by Orlok and Nicholas Holt just kind of watching?
Um,
And that whole thing happens,
yeah.
and then they go after it.
So I
And
didn't initially like that because, and I don't like the possession scenes. I thought the tongue thing was a little bit too much.
it's extremely too much.
And then they start having sex. To me, that was kind of weird.
That was the point where I was like, I'm out.
Yeah, but then I
Because he watched her go through, like, she's ripping clothes off,
right.
she's convulsing,
Mm.
and all of a sudden he's like, you know what? That's hot. And
Well, it's like I'm thinking this, like, okay, like this Count Orlok guy is making me all wet and horny now. Like, I think I'm gonna fuck my husband at this
no, well,
point.
so you think he was affecting them both, or
I don't know.
just her?
But then
Because
I tell my friend this, another friend, and he said, well, I kind of took it as her wanting to have sex with her husband he was trying to break the spell of Count Orlok.
okay,
That made sense. Let's talk about the big moment. Because
okay,
one of the big things, and I didn't really want to talk about this too much when we talked about like the vampire
of
lore,
course
is that Count Orlok doesn't go for the neck; he goes for the chest
he does.
because that's where the heart is.
Yeah.
And that's what we were referring to when we were calling Count Orlok the titty sucking vampire
He
because
likes to suck at the boob.
yes, Bill Skarsgård was having a little bit of fun
No,
in
he
this
was.
movie in
He
that
definitely
scene.
was. He definitely took what they wrote and interpreted it as what he thought it would be.
Right, and that's the thing about it is I know we're joking about that scene and calling the titty sucking vampire,
Yeah.
but I like the fact that yeah, it is practical. That is where your main blood source is in your chest. But then we're talking, and then that like I was saying that like vampirism is a very inherently sexual thing. So, but
It's
him by
not.
doing that, like it's going into him like seducing her
Yeah,
and
it
having an
gets
intimate moment with her.
yeah, it
And it was very awkward to watch that in
inherently
front of my
puts
mom.
in, yeah.
Funny story, I looked away for a little bit, and my mom like bumped me on the shoulder and she's like, "Drew, you can watch it. It's fine."
But it inherently involves a sexual nature.
Right.
And it's also one of those situations where you look at it and you're like, that's impractical.
Mm.
You're not going to go through a breastplate. You're not going to go through cartilage and rib cage.
He's a vampire.
No, he is.
Right.
I'm not going to say, anything against that, but would you rather not go for the soft spot?
I guess so.
But I felt like Robert Eggers was like, you know what? We could use some boobs. we could use
Yeah, he has a
some
history of like of nudity. Like I think
no,
all his
he
movies.
loves his nudity.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it is it's not always the most
It's not tasteful.
enduring.
Yeah, it's not
Like
it's
erotic.
not super emotional. It's not super enduring.
Yeah, it's kind of
just
disturbing.
nudity for nudity's sake.
No, I think a lot of it's important for the story.
Oh, definitely a lot of it.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's just boob.
Well,
for boob's
especially like
sake.
the wit where like Undertaker Joy's character is fully embracing her witchism and her evilness. And it's becomes she's becoming part of like this pagan ritual kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and it involved the nudity.
Well,
All of it, yeah.
that's definitely one of the positions that it's definitely important.
Mm.
But I feel like there are also points in Robert Eggers films where it's just nudity for nudity's sake.
And what's wrong with that?
I mean, there's not a thing wrong with that.
Right.
I'm just saying, artistically, you're not going to look at a film and be like, you know what, that means something, because
Right.
it does. It's really just,
Yeah.
hey, what's up with that? I
Right.
like that. It's a thing.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, no, I thought that was really interesting how and I think what we can do in films now and the rating system really afforded Eggers to really explore take a story that he loves, like a movie that he loves, and really kind of explore that kind of side of it and make it really violent because this movie is gross.
It's got a lot of, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very visceral.
Right, for sure. What was my other question I had for you, Ben? Um, Now, how do you feel this version compares to the original or even the Herzog version?
The original is always going to be the most terrifying.
Mm,
And I don't know why. I think maybe it's the 15 or 16, frames per second.
mm,
Maybe it's the originality of it. This one is it's an amalgam. It's a grouping of all the stories. So it's Nosferatu, it's Dracula,
yeah, it's Coppola.
it's Coppola, it's all these different groupings of things. Whereas Nosferatu was its own thing.
Mm.
And it was it was an
Well,
iconic.
it was the earliest Dracula movie, technically.
I mean, you're not wrong,
Right.
but it
Eric
was
didn't agree with you
but
though.
that was the thing, is like Dracula came after Nosferatu, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it was an idea spawned an idea
Mm.
and then spawned another idea.
Well,
And
I
they
mean,
they
Murnau
came
wanted,
together
yeah,
to be.
Murnau wanted to do a Dracula movie, but he couldn't.
That's fair, but
Yeah.
like there's definitely a grouping of ideas
Mm.
that became the new Nosferatu.
Right. Yeah,
Which
it
is
is interesting that this illegal Dracula movie, this bootleg Dracula movie, this unofficial Dracula movie, spawned its own legacy to the fact where like both directors of these remakes didn't even want to or well, I wouldn't even say Herzog did this because I think he stuck with the original Dracula names, but like Eggers stuck with the character names.
he did.
He Count Orlok,
2015
Ellen,
on. Yeah.
Hutter, Knox. But he didn't use Renfield, Dracula,
Well, that
Parker, and
was the
Mina.
thing. I was talking with a friend earlier, and I was like, "Who was the Renfield character?"
Knox.
And that's the thing. Is
Well,
that
and
like
but that
obviously it's the person that was in the insane asylum,
yeah, and
and I was like, "But
that's
who?"
Hutter's boss,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
He's the real estate agent.
Mm,
He's the guy that initially sends him off to do his
mm,
bidding, and it was one of those. I was so stuck in the initial Dracula universe
mm,
that I couldn't understand other names being applied
right.
to different people.
Yeah, I think I'll tell you what the thing I like about this version, unlike a lot of remakes or legendary sequels, where they was constantly throwing like images and thoughts and lines from the original.
Yeah,
They do it sparingly here.
but it's subtle. It's so subtle.
Yeah, so like
They
at the
just
beginning,
sprinkle it in.
yeah, at the beginning, where's Hutter and his wife,
Yeah,
Ellen, and the cat jumps on the bed. That's a callback
that's
to
a
the
good point.
original
Yeah,
because that's how we're
that's a good.
introduced to Ellen in the original
Yeah,
movie.
you're right.
She's petting their cat, and then Heather dresses up like the character in the original.
He did.
Yeah,
Holy shit! I didn't think about that.
yeah, he looks like the guy.
You're right.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
and then they zooms in on the knock rotating side.
Yeah.
Dude, and that was like back to back to back, and those three moments really made me smile because of my love of the original.
They really punched that home.
Right. Yeah, it really just it's like if I were to do a Batman movie and I just throw in a bunch of like stuff that I love from the comics and the other Batman stuff like that. I'll just do that. I'll just if I were to do a Batman movie,
Reference.
right?
Get it. Either
Um,
you don't get it or you get it.
yeah, and it's hard for me to pick which version I like, this one or the Murnau one, because like you said, Murnau is such an early film, where like it's very archaic,
Yeah.
and it's interesting to see.
It's archaic and artistic.
Right.
It's yeah.
Yeah, but to think like in 100 years, this version is going to be archaic to people.
Touche.
Yeah,
You're not wrong.
yeah. So that's kind of an interesting kind of thing there. But I like how this one explores more character depth, like the whole selling your soul to
It
the
does.
devil. Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. Being all broken about his wife and children
But
dying.
think about if you cut out the audio
Mm.
from this one and looked at the old one compared to this one, who would do better?
It's a toss up because
Right? Right?
honestly, probably Eggers.
I think so too.
Yeah, because
I really do think so
it's
too.
more dynamic.
It is. It shows more character development. It shows more.
But the first one is too. The Murnau.
It's not bad. It's
Yeah.
not bad at all. And it definitely broke ground
Mm.
on certain things. But I think this one involved more stories in terms of or Stoker and the original Nosferatu and other folk tales.
Mm.
And I think it really involved all of those and brought them all together into an amalgam, and it made them one cohesive story.
Right.
And I think that,
Mm.
if you were to cut out audio on all of those, Eggers would have made a better story.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean this almost is the perfect Nosferatu, not the perfect Dracula movie, but the perfect Nosferatu movie.
I think you're right.
Yeah, it might. I think I might like. It's a tie between this one and the original.
I think this one wins.
Really.
I do.
Scariest part for you?
Scariest part.
Yeah, what part really sticks with you as far as
I
like
think
fear?
when she starts having her moment
Mm.
where she's ripping her clothes off and having, convulsions, quote unquote,
Right.
and then she talks.
She gets all wet and horny.
Yeah,
for,
I think yeah.
Yeah, for
Nick
Count
Russell all
Lock.
of a sudden gets just randy,
Right.
and he goes after. And it was one of those situations where you don't know what's happening.
Mhm.
There's obviously something outside of the situation happening.
Right.
But it's still, it's still going together. It's still coalescing.
Mm.
And it comes together in a situation where both parties decide, this is not
Right.
okay. This is yeah. And Nicholas Holt's the first one to just like, oh
Mm.
no.
Right.
And she, later decides to like, no, we don't need to do that. It's a situation where everybody is dealing with
Mhm.
some kind of outside force that is drawing them in. And I feel like we deal with that every day as
Right.
people. We deal with that
Mhm.
situation every day as people. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's a moment where we can really all understand
Right.
what the hell is happening.
Yeah.
And it happened, and all of us kind of understood as an audience. We understood, and all of us wanted to pull away.
Right.
And so we decided to pull away right as Nicholas Holt was pulling away. And so, well, no, and that's the thing is as we, as everybody else decided, he came right after.
Right.
No, came not. Yeah.
God, this is
No,
starting to get dirty
yeah,
as my ghost
yeah.
picture commentary, Ellis.
His decision came right after.
Right.
And so he pulled away.
Mm.
And I feel like everybody can identify with that situation
Right.
where they have had a moment where they have been victim to their visceral emotions, their carnal emotions. and they have had to make a decision to back up.
Right.
And I feel like that was the most poignant moment of that film.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I would say my scariest part is when Emma Corrin's character, Erin Taylor Johnson's wife, goes upstairs and sees her two daughters, um, got killed by Count Orlok. That is some fucked up shit right
That's
there.
a good one. That's a
Yeah,
good one.
that's like that scene in Slither when the
Oh my
alien
God.
sees like the that one lady who's just like big and just
Yeah.
absorbed by the alien thing, and he just cuts to him saying, "Now that's some fucked up shit."
That's some fucked up shit.
Where's the Mr. Pibb? It's the only kind of Coke I like.
Yeah,
But
it was one of those moments where like you saw two people that were in their right minds look at a situation that they had caused, and they had caused in their not right minds,
right,
in their non-understandable minds, and they looked at it and they were mortified.
right.
And so I feel like everybody that has ever seen anything or ever lived a life has had those moments where you looked at a situation where you could have had the right decision and you chose to not, and all of a sudden it became something it wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that,
but I can't imagine like going through that as a parent.
No,
and then that same thing that killed your kids like kills you, and then the father figure, the husband, is going through all the emotions.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely.
Yeah, like that's just horrible, and it goes back to that whole COVID-19 kind of thing.
You really think so?
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, he was working on this movie before that. Like I said,
No, you're
but
right.
like, but
He
it
took a
just
break
so
from-
happens. Yeah, it just so
Yeah.
happens. So yeah, it takes on a new meaning at that point.
It does. You're not wrong.
Yeah, where so many people have to deal with the death of loved ones constantly, and it was really bad.
Yeah, and certain parents that had the control of their child's medical, their medical well-being. And no, you have a good point.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that's some pretty scary shit. Now where do you think this movie stacks up with Eggers' other films? Like,
so I have a soft spot for the Northman.
Yeah, you like Viking shit.
I do. So I'm gonna have to say number 2. Right after Northman. It's it's pretty far up there.
Yeah,
it's pretty well done.
Yeah, this one.
I'm biased.
Yeah, number 3.
It's very well done.
You only got 2 to pick from. It's pretty easy.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, well, you have to rank them all.
No, the Northman again.
Okay, you don't have to rank them.
Yeah.
I would say this is my favorite Eggers.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because this is a passing practice from him. This is based off of one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And because I did my top, 31 favorite horror movies countdown on the Facebook page this year, and I put Nosferatu on there. If it could go back, I would do it as a tie. Because they're both aspects of this movie.
No, they're both fantastic.
That I like. Between the Eggers and then Murnau.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I would say The Lighthouse because how weird and fucked up it is.
Oh God, you're
right.
right.
Yeah, then The Northman.
Forget The Lighthouse.
Then The Witch.
Oh God, I think I would have to go The Witch. Between The Lighthouse and The Witch, I think I would have to go The Witch, just because I know people that work on it, that worked on The Witch.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's a hard one.
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna go The White House.
The Lighthouse?
Or The Lighthouse, yeah.
I'm
gonna say that one just because of all the achievements they had to do in cinematography.
Yeah.
And all the achievements they had to do in terms of 2 actors going and doing duets together every day.
Right. It's a bottle horror movie.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. And then what other time period do you want to see Eggers tackle?
World War One.
That'd be an interesting one.
World War One. Yeah, I would really love to see him tackle trench warfare
Mm,
because the guy, he has a way of understanding and interpreting
mm,
those points in time, those moments. And I think World War One is the most uninterpreted moment in time because World War Two is, let's, not trying to be insensitive, but
mm. Documented.
it's been documented.
Mm,
People have gone over and done that. And World War One and Korea
mm.
have been the least gone over and narrated points in time.
Right.
And so I think those are the moments that he has the most ground to tackle
Mm.
on.
That'd be really awesome though. And it'll be kind of different because it's more recent.
It is.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
But it's also the same time period, or it's close to the same time period the original Nosferatu. So he can go more into talk about like about the plague and like the
Yeah.
different advancement in science. Because this was a new deal. Like this was like the first war where like machine guns were introduced.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really caused a lot of damage to people.
It did.
Yeah. I would love to see ancient Greece.
Ancient Greece.
Yeah, because the
Okay.
Titans and like the gods and all that stuff, that's like the original horror story right there.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
God, that's so good.
Another one I would love to see is the Satanic Panic.
Really?
Like in the 60s and 70s. That'd be real interesting.
No shit. Okay.
Yeah, I want to see how he would do the Satanic Panic.
I won't lie. I would watch that.
Yeah. Now final question. Does Nosferatu count as the Dracula movie? Because that's a big point of consensus between me and Eric. Because he did not think it's a Dracula movie, and I think it is.
I think it is.
Yeah, thank you.
It's definitely a mix. It's definitely a mix of the original and Bram Stoker. It's just
We'll talk about Nosferatu in general, not just this version.
oh
Yeah.
No.
Really?
I would have to say it's totally different.
Really? I think it counts. Because it has the bones in there.
I mean, it has the bones.
But he would
But
put it,
it's
but
like
Murnau would put it in the situation.
It's like an old house.
Hmm.
If you knock down the walls of an old house and you build new walls
Mm.
and you build, you build new hallways,
Mm.
new rooms. It's a different house.
Right.
It's different. It's the oh god, what do they call it? Odysseus's ship.
Right.
Yeah. So if you replace every plank
Mm.
in a ship, is it still the same ship?
I guess so.
I mean, that's up,
Yeah.
that's up to everybody to decide.
Yeah, but it's kind of cool to see Orlok like reference everywhere, like Salem's Lot.
I fucking.
I mean, even an actual Dracula movie, Last Voyage of the Meter, that came out last year or a couple of years ago.
Hold on, I like that movie.
I like that movie too, but like that's very much design of Count Orlok. That's it.
It was.
Yeah, and then SpongeBob. Of course, SpongeBob.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And SpongeBob.
Yeah. Nosferatu.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was actually I want to recommend another movie if you can find it. Shadow the Vampire with Willem Dafoe. That movie's really good. That's my favorite Dafoe movie.
Okay.
Or performance at least.
All right. I'll look it up.
Yeah. You know what it's about, right?
No.
So there was a rumor when they were doing the original Nosferatu that they actually hired an actual vampire. And this movie's about them making that movie if they did hire that vampire.
No shit. Okay.
I can't believe you never heard of this movie.
I would watch that over and over.
It's amazing.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely gonna check it out.
Yep. So yeah, thanks for being on the show, man. I appreciate you having me on here.
All right.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Love you, buddy.
Yep. So if you like this episode and you want to see more spooky and fang sucking content, make sure you slash that subscribe button and follow me at Horror Sci-Fi Beyond on Facebook and Spotify. And Happy New Year and have a good night.